video of you talking about the AVACEN, so she has some questions about it.
Cool, sweet. Yeah, it's kind of
Hello.
cool to watch Jeanie, who has no gray roots anymore. We've had several people who've reported that as a side effect. Actually, it's interesting. The AVACEN is the only medical treatment that I've ever heard of that people say, I just love the side effects of this treatment.
Right.
And the only, anything that's truly healing, as opposed to treatment, which tends to be about hiding things and suppressing symptoms, anything that's truly healing is going to produce positive benefits in every direction, and that's exactly what the AVACEN does.
Yeah.
So what can I tell you about it? What is it you have in the way of questions? I don't know how much you know about it at this point, so start me off with an understanding of where you're at, and then I'll see if I can pick it up. And
Oh, perfect. Well, first of all, I just want to say that, the universe perfectly works in all its fantastic, beautiful, mysterious ways, because I just also had a wonderful conversation with Tim, which originally I thought I was talking to you when I first started, because I got on right at 9 and I've never been here before. And all the things that you're
I'll consider
offering,
that a compliment.
Yes. Well, all the things that you're offering, both, all the way around, that I've just heard more about, is such a beautiful gift. And thank you for making such, so much available. And I'm very excited now to dive into a lot of things that you have to offer that I was not aware of. So, and it was brought, through the AVACEN, through a YouTube video, and getting to you, and then seeing you at a show, and I could ask questions. So here we are.
Awesome. Which video did you see on YouTube?
You were being interviewed. I don't remember the young gentleman's name.
Probably.
Yeah.
The most recent one I did was a medical facility. It's called Outside the Box. I just did one recently with him, a fellow named Ben, who's with a medical practice up in Kingsport, Tennessee. So that sounds like it might be the one that you tapped into.
Yes, that possibly was it. So I will say that I was familiar with AVACEN already. I have used it, I think, just once or twice with a practitioner in a practitioner's office. I am aware of the benefits. I have seen some different applications that I'm interested in that I needed to talk to someone about, and see if you had any kind of information on how it works, if there's a way to have it work effectively. And just know that I've already also, once I saw your video and you were explaining things so well, I've sent that to 2 people, and I'm hoping they'll come and order one from you. So, and it would help them tremendously with what they've got going on.
Will help us too.
Yes. So it's goodness all the way around.
I don't know that you're aware of the fact that for the last, up until 4 years ago, we've been on the road pretty much full time for 40 years. That's how we put the work out around the globe. And, we paid our own expenses. Our workshops were free, and donations from that is what has kept us, developing and bring this work forward on a global scale. And then 4 years ago, when Jeannie's dad became ill, we, instead of putting him in a nursing home as her brothers were wont to do, we decided to stop traveling and move in with him here. So it's severely, restricted our cash flow, and the AVACEN has also, we represent the machine, so we get a commission on it, and so it would benefit us as well with keeping this work afloat and keeping it moving around the globe.
Beautiful. Well, it would help them, and it would help you, and that would be fantastic. So, and you're helping me, so it's a perfect universe, as we know. Okay, so I'm gonna just fill you in a little bit, and I know no medical claims, I'm aware of all of that, but any information of you seeing this machine being used in this way would be helpful. Because I do understand the regular applications and all the beautiful things it does for the body, and and it's getting into the micro, all the things of
microcirculation,
bringing microcirculation through your body. and that actually is, I think, why this is being used in a couple of alternatives. Well, actually just one I saw, an alternative clinic for a very particular application. So there, with my body, there is a late stage cancer thing going on, which I have been treating holistically for quite some time now, and I'm just getting ready to go into one. It's an immunotherapy drug, which will be the first adventure into a Western medicine, just to give my body a boost.
Right.
And so the idea, I'm not quite sure how to talk about this, but I'm just going to let it fly. So the idea is,
yeah.
Okay, awesome. The idea is that, well, when I first started this journey, I was at a clinic in Irvine, California, and I was not doing low dose chemo or anything like that. Again, everything I was doing was holistic towards the body, and I have continued to do that, and I will continue to do all that. That's what I love, that universe. And now I'm going to incorporate. I've been trying to work on some of the emotional stuff. That's been more of a blind spot, but now I'm going to very much go dive deep in the deep end of your fantastic offerings with all of that. So when I was at this clinic, I would walk by this room, and it was where they were doing the low dose chemo IVs, and at each table they had an AVACEN. And I had used the AVACEN once before, and I just thought, wow, why are they in there? I want to use one, just in general. And then that thought came back to me as I am now going into just this one area. And I started to think, well, I wonder if they were using it either with the IV or prior and after to get that that liquid that's in the blood system then through the IV into the microcirculation, so it can get deeper into the parts to help the body rid itself of what's going on. And so
okay, let's
I
start
actually
there.
have an AVACEN. Yeah, okay, great. Yay.
So Jeanie actually just gave you the answer to your question. The thesis, and I think it's fairly well proven, it's beyond just a theory, is that the reason why hair turns gray is that there's a lack of minerals in the hair. When the body is not getting a circulation to the scalp, to the hair follicles, minerals aren't getting into it. And it's minerals that cause the coloring of our hair. So when those minerals are not being delivered and start to disappear, the hair loses its color. It reverts to no color, or just that white gray type look. And so my take, and a tradition in naturopathic medicine, this is a medicine that I'm trained in, is that when you can deliver those minerals back into the hair follicle, the hair will start to turn color. And so my offering would be that what's happening is that the AVACEN opening restricted circulation, my take is there are very few diseases of any kind that aren't impacted by microcirculation. If you're not getting the nutrients, if you're not getting the oxygen, if you're not getting the removal of toxicity, the cell has a problem. So, it's a kind of a nondescript problem that one's hair is turning gray. But if you restore the flow of nutrients and minerals to that hair, and it starts to come back to its normal color, then you've got proof that you're delivering nutrients on a deeper level. The AVACEN was originally introduced to me by a fellow naturopath that I've worked with over the last 50 years, and he had diabetes at mid-70s, and in particular had diabetic neuropathy. He could not work more. He would get up in the morning and he'd be able to do 2 hours work, and he would have excruciating pain in his feet, and he'd have to get his feet up off the floor for the rest of the day. That was it. The thing that got my attention was when he shared with me, well, Michael, you know, I don't get more than 2 hours work a day without excruciating pain in my feet. Well, I've been using this thing for about 2 months now, and I can do 5 hours of work, and I have aching in my feet, but it's not excruciating pain anymore. That was 2.5 years ago. Patrick, who maybe you've heard on this show, or maybe at some point will, Dr. Patrick McGann, now works 10, 12, 14-hour days again. He's been using AVACEN for more than 2 years. Neuropathy is virtually gone, and once again, what's happening? It's delivery of nutrients. You know, when blood sugar isn't metabolized properly, as with diabetes, periphery circulation is impacted, and the cells connected to periphery circulation are obviously impacted. When you restore the proper supply of nutrients and blood flow, oxygen, nutrition, and you remove the waste, you've got a cell that's got an environment in which it can heal. Patrick shared with me that when he started using the AVACEN, his average monthly supplement costs, he was, you know, pretty connected to and committed to supplemental regimen in his own health. He dropped the cost of his supplements by $85 a month, basically paid for the AVACEN by what he didn't need to take in nutritional supplements. And his take, and I tend to agree with him, is the reason why he didn't need the supplementation was because, or as much supplementation, is because what he was taking was being delivered into the tissue. And so that's the basic idea of the AVACEN, is that it's a delivery system for what you're taking in. And so if you're doing especially some form of toxic therapy, now I assume from what you're saying of immune support, it's not a toxic therapy, but I'm not familiar with it, so I don't know.
This one is a drug, and it is this is the first one that it's called immunotherapy. It's not chemotherapy, but it is a drug, and it does have toxicity to the body. Yes.
So then I definitely, before I took a step in that direction, be talking with the person administering it, let them know about the AVACEN, what it does, and have them very carefully monitor the dosage that you're giving you, because the average person, you know, once, I forget what the statistics are, but something like once the average person in America reaches 40 years of age, they've got compromised microcirculation. And so I would think the average physician who's administering a dose is used to administering to people with compromised microcirculation. If you let your practitioner know that, I'd say that would be a very severe, you know, warning to make sure he knows or she knows what it is that you're doing with microcirculation, so they know how to, one, you know, determine your dosage, and two, monitor its impact on you. Because if they're used to, you know, 50% of a drug being delivered on a cellular level and having an impact there, and all of a sudden you're delivering 80%, there can be trouble. And other than that, you know, getting there's the only contraindication for the AVACEN is if your doctor has said, well, you're so fragile that you can't exercise normally, then you need to make sure you check with your physician, you know, the physician who told you that, before you start using it. One of the controlled research studies that they did was on diabetes. They did this at the University of California in Santa Monica, and what they found was that using the AVACEN for 30 minutes after a meal produced the equivalent of about a 1 hour in terms of its impact on the temperature of the blood, core temperature of the body, and on sugar metabolism. They saw that postprandial sugar metabolism, or sugar, went down 60 points from 30 minutes on the AVACEN, which is about the equivalent of what happens if you go do a 6-minute walk after you eat. So it changes the way the body uses blood sugar. It changes the way it metabolizes everything. And so.
Wow. Okay. I have one question. So I understood everything that you said, and it's really, I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you today, because I was really on the fence on whether to start using my AVACEN now as I'm going into this treatment, or to wait for a little while. The people that I will be doing the immunotherapy drug with are not alternative people. They won't understand. I mean, I can tell them that I have this, and I'm actually starting it today. So
okay.
I can
if you'd
tell
like,
them that
if you'd like, drop Jeanie an email with your email address and contact information, phone number. And if you'd like, I will contact the designer of the machine, ask the questions, and see if they're perhaps willing to work with your physician or at least communicate. I'll see if that's a possibility.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm on their board of advisors, so I have a fair bit of communication with them.
Okay, that would be so incredible. Okay, and how do I find Jeannie's email?
Jeanie.
Okay, sorry.
Jeanie. At
Jeanie.
Jeanie.
At
Jeanie, like Jeanie in a bottle. Jeanie at whyagain.org.
Okay, whyagain.org. Okay.
And as soon as she gets that, she'll send it to me, and I will get in touch with Tom Muehlbauer, who designed the machine and is the CEO of the company, and see what we can do to support you.
Oh, that would be incredible. Just incredible. Wow. Miracles.
Just doing our job. That's what we're here for. So that's awesome.
Well,
I'm glad we're talking right now.
Me too.
Delighted. And if you'd like, I'll send you, there's an article that I have on basically a healing course that includes all levels of healing. And if you'd like, in that email, I'll send you back a copy of that course, and you can just walk through the links one by one to be fully introduced to this work and fully supported in understanding the tools, how they work, and then if you have questions, of course, we're here 5 days a week, an hour a day to answer those questions. I'm delighted to.
Brilliant. That would be absolutely incredible. All of that. So thank you. I receive.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay.
Delighted. It would
brilliant.
be very frustrating to be doing what we're doing if there was nobody who would receive. So we appreciate receivers.
Excellent. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much.
Any other thoughts, refinements, questions? In any arena that you're dealing with?
I mean, that was the big one because I'm getting ready to start it today, and I'm really focused on that. So now I'm going to hold off on utilizing my machine until I get some clear direction and make sure that it's, that I'm utilizing it in a beneficial way with this particular thing. Yeah, so I can't thank you enough.
Awesome. Delighted.
Okay.
Honored.
Thank you. An honor. Likewise, very much so. Do I press 1 again to mute myself, or do you guys automatically mute me?
No, Jeanie will take care of that, and then as soon as we get the email, we'll move from there.
Okay, brilliant. I thank you.
Delight to connect.
I thank you. Okay.
All right, blessings.
All right.
Take care. Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. You too.
And we have 3 more hands up.
Awesome. Let's go for it.
Yeah. Okay. The first one that came up right after Lisa was, I believe, 843. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Michael.
843. Hey there, young lady. Welcome. How are you doing?
I just did my AVACEN I'm only doing 5 minutes a day to get started to try to prevent this. I think I just need to build up more slowly.
Okay. Well, listen to your intuition. That's really important. Definitely important. And then yesterday we talked, and you had a whole range of questions, which I asked just so our audience knows what's happening here, I asked that we stop our conversation yesterday so that, you're kind of being up against the wall as you are, challenged as you are in your life. Your questions are really poignant and right on target, and they're everybody's questions. So the reason why I asked if you call into the show and ask those questions so we can have that discussion live, one, you'll have a recording of it that you can access anytime to remind yourself of what took place, and two, everybody in the community gets to benefit from the conversation. And, the fact is we're all in this together, so here we are.
I don't even remember what the questions were.
Right. Now that we put you on the spot, right?
I'm like, I don't even...
Well, the starting point, I'll just refresh.
Okay.
Let me refresh where we started our conversation when you had called me and I missed your call and I returned your call. And you had said that in the worksheet that I did with John, or the second half of it yesterday, that one of the most amazing, incredible, radical, bizarre thoughts that you'd ever heard in your life was that somebody could actually live without rage in their bodies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was a challenging thought for you. So that was the starting point of our conversation.
Could you live without rage and hate?
Yeah.
And fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a very radical thought. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting in the Aramaic language, in what people call the Lord's Prayer, which really isn't a prayer at all, but a set of instructions. There's a line in there that can be interpreted from the Aramaic as saying, get us out of our habit mind. And what happens is, each of us, if you've ever held a newborn, if you go back and hold a newborn, everybody, virtually everybody that I ask that question of, except those who have a lot of trauma around their own birth, will tap into the essence of the newborn and recognize the newborn energy as pure presence of love. And realizing that that's our nature, literally, if we took every vile, vicious, murderous mind in history and we're able to hold them as a newborn, we would find the pure presence of love, the purity of human life. And our world has become so specialized in hate and fear and rage that for most people, because of the generational patterns of unresolved hatred and fear and rage, and with no malice whatsoever, load the child with that dynamic of hate, rage, and fear. We call it a power person dynamic, and just to briefly explain that so you kind of get a sense of where this all started, not just for you, but for me and everybody else. We all were steeped in it. But in our codependence workshop, we identify what we call a power person. And a power person is a person in your life who had more power over your life than you did, number one. Number two, they were not functioning out of love. Number three, you as the small person in that relationship perceived that this circumstance, this threat coming from this person who is supposed to be caretaking you, because the power person is usually, although not always, a parent, that the object, the child in that situation, experienced it as survival. So three things. Power person's got the power over the child. Power person is not functioning as love, and the child perceives it as survival. When that happens, our energy fields, when you think of us not as bodies but as energy fields, open wide. And when they open up, they act like a sponge, literally, just sucking in everything that's in the environment. So one of the most common, and considering that your focal point in our opening yesterday was about rage, one of the most common circumstances that installs a power person dynamic in a child's mind is a parent who is raging. Why are they raging? Well, the mind will give them all sorts of stories about why they're raging, but the bottom line is they're raging because they had a power person who raged, who had a power person who raged, who had a power person who raged. And this is an habitual activity that once instilled in a family system tends to run the family system until somebody wakes up and does the work of forgiveness. And, you know, as you heard in the two shows yesterday and the day before, pardon me, and I really admire John for his courage at bringing forward his vulnerability and what he was able to do and his willingness. And by the way, I don't know whether Jeanie started out and announced that, but Jeanie took and we did one of the most powerful worksheets I think we've ever done live on the show, and we've got probably about 24 of them in the archives. But probably one of the most powerful that we've ever done was in the last 2 days with John, who was dealing with literally a life-threatening, debilitating physiological disease. The world would call a physical disease. And the bottom line, the thing that motivated John, I've known John for about 35 years, and we've talked about the forgiveness process on and off. He's a minister. I've spoken in his churches, done workshops. But what had John call me, and he shared it on the show, it's not that I'm telling tales out of school, that there was a rage up for him around his perceived physical disability that, you know, as far as he could see, was permanent. And one of the things that he said to me, and I don't think this actually came out in either of the shows, but when we were talking privately, he acknowledged that his father was a rageaholic. And we take on the habits of our power persons. Once that power person dynamic is instilled, once the parent has the power, isn't functioning as love, and the child is just this open field, if what's going on from the power person is rage, then that child just is like a sponge that just sucks in all of that rage. For the rest of that individual's life, and now I'm talking about a child that maybe this happened in utero, you know, maybe this happened at 3 months of age. Maybe this happened at 2 years of age. But that power person dynamic was instilled, that rage was instilled in the child very early. For the rest of their life, until they do the work, which John did so powerfully over the last 2 days, and Jeanie has converted it so it's on YouTube now. It's on our YouTube channel. If you just put Michael Rice into YouTube, then you'll see those two shows that Jeanie did, part 1 and part 2 of this worksheet. But part of the process of healing is the ability to reopen and look at what's been installed by the power person into our habits minds. Because for the rest of our lives, if something like that happened at 2 or 2 months or 10 years or even at 70 years, it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily denote a child and a parent, but usually it is. That's one of the reasons we were told to honor our fathers and our mothers, because it's a key to healing ourselves. But once that's instilled in the mind, for the rest of that person's life, until they understand this power person dynamic and access and remove that energy that was absorbed from that early experience, when they are in that position, not understanding and not having reached in to remove those dynamics, there will only be 3 behaviors available to them for the rest of their lives. And I invite everybody who's got a power person in your life to just think about what their behaviors were. And then notice that here's what runs your life. If that power person dynamic has been installed in your mind, here's your habit. And I say this from experience because I'm a product of that. I was there. It was the need to heal myself, the day that I was being born, they called my father at work and said, if you want to see this kid alive, come to the hospital now because he's not going to live through the night. I was almost dead 3 or 4 times the first year of my life. As a kid, I lived in an oxygen tent the first 2 weeks of school every year. I was never in school. I was in an oxygen tent. And I lived on an inhaler and pills. Until finally one day I said, this is not healing me, it's keeping me alive, but it's killing me. And that's what sent me on the pursuit of healing. And in my awareness, in 50 years of developing this work, the highest form of healing on the planet came out of the mouth of one man. It came out of his mouth 2,000 years ago. He told people exactly how to do it. Those who heard him said, half of them at least, too hard a saying, turned and went the other way and left and never came back. They were his disciples at that point. Half of them left, and their words were too hard a saying. I don't want to go in and face this. I don't want to go in and deal with this. This power person dynamic, this hate, this rage, this fear that I carry in me is too much for me to handle. And half of his disciples left. But he showed exactly how to do it, and John gave us a powerful demonstration over the last 2 days of how you can face, and John's in his early 70s, what looks like is going to be a debilitating disease that will ultimately kill him and that he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. And one of his phrases in our conversation was, this isn't the way I had planned to live out the last years of my life. So what are the 3 behaviors? First of all, the thing that determines a behavior when there is a power person dynamic in one's mind is the level of stress that they're under. So I just invite everybody to notice, when there's no stress, notice that you do whatever you did to get along with your power person. Think about your power person, and when things were going as well as they could possibly go, what were your behaviors? That will be what you'll do when there's little or no stress going on in your mind. When stress starts to build, you will shift out of that dynamic of doing what you did to get along, and you'll move into doing what you did to resist and survive with your power person. These are the habits of the mind. When one becomes ultra-stressed, they will do what their power person did to them that they hated the most. And until they can own and admit and love the truth enough to look at that, stare it square in the face, and bring it forward in the presence of love, which John did so powerfully. I mean, as I say, that's one of the most powerful worksheets we've done in 12 years of doing this show. He faced it squarely. He went to his heart space. He went to the space of love. And if you remember, his last words when we completed the worksheet were, instead of the rage and the hopeless and helplessness that we started with, the words were, I feel empowered. So all you're going to have to do, Paula, in order for your mind and body and spirit to heal, is face the power person dynamics that you, like me and everybody else, has carried around all of our lives. Step into a new habit. Let go of the habit of, one of the first things we're usually fed by our power person is we're broken. There's something wrong with us. So most people operate out of a deep belief, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. And that's the biggest lie that's ever been told to you. That's the biggest lie that's ever been told about you. That's the biggest lie you've ever told yourself. The truth is, in your created essence, you are whole and perfect, and that essence still exists. The same as if today you were born and I happen to be there and hold you as a newborn and tap into the truth of who you are. That's what we know about you. That's what we know about every person that has ever existed. That's the truth. Now comes the lie we've been brainwashed with. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. I deserve to be punished. I deserve to have this rage puked on me. I deserve to be beat up. I deserve to be abused. I deserve to be. And all of those things, Paula, are lies. But they're habitual lies that when we tell them to ourselves often enough and long enough, destroy our bodies. So all you're going to have to do is overcome your habit mind. Now, that's a mega, mega piece of work. In order for me to say what I've just shared with you now, it took me 10 years initially developing this work, and that's when I came in touch with the Aramaic, and another 35 years of working with the original Aramaic teachings of forgiveness from Yeshua out of the Aramaic. It took me that long to understand what I'm explaining to you now. Now, I've done the gut work. And when I say 45 years, I'm talking about full time. You know, that main workshop on forgiveness, why is this happening to me again? There are times when I've done that workshop 3 times in one day. That's the kind of full time that I'm talking about. And back then, when I did that, it was a 4-hour workshop. I now get it in about 3 hours. So it took me that long to understand these dynamics. Paula, you don't have to take that long. Now you could go back and you could start to, go to the Aramaic teachings and you could start to decode Yeshua, and you could do all that, and you don't have enough years left to do it. So I'm here to offer that. I'm here to provide it in the most refined, understandable form that I possibly can. And then I'm here to support you unfolding, as John did in the last 2 radio shows, the parts of him that hold this pain and this rage that's been passed on for more generations, Paula, than probably you and I can even count. You and I came by that honestly. And it's going to take work to undo it. Now, I've watched people who said, I'm going for it, and they do it, and they change. And I've watched people who say, as half of the disciples did when Yeshua said, here's what you have to do, half of the disciples in his audience turned away, walked away, never came back, and their expression was, too hard to say. So the choice I'd offer you need to make now, Paula, is which camp you're going to be in. Are you going to be in the camp that says, I'm ready to go for it, I'm going to do this, I'm ready to heal mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually? Or are you going to be in the camp that says, it's just too hard and I give up? And I know that from our conversations you've shared that you've pretty much given up already. So now are you ready to reclaim your power and walk through the process and heal yourself? That's the question for all of us. That question is not just for you, Paula, but that's for everybody listening. That's for me as well. Am I ready to take the reins of the next level of work that I need to do to heal the habits in my mind that don't support me living as the presence of love in my world? So that question isn't just for you. It's for all of us. Am I ready to do that work? Am I ready to face myself on that level? I'm offering that I've watched hundreds of people. I've worked with tens of thousands. I've watched hundreds who really took, the lead on their own healing process and stepped in and went for it. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a challenge, but we're here with the practice. We're here with the tools. We're here with the support, and available an hour a day, 5 days a week. And this conversation about forgiveness has been going on this radio show for, actually, we're just getting ready to go into our 12th year. So we're just completing 11 years at the end of this month. And the first, 7 or 8 years, it was a 1-hour conversation each day. And then Dr. Tim decided he was ready to take on an hour show of his own. So for the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a 2-hour conversation. So there are over 3,000 hours to listen to on how, on a practical level, you can do this. One of the things Dr. Tim has shared is that as a clinical psychologist, He's gone to all kinds of workshops from all kinds of psychologists and psychiatrists to learn the magical way that they brought healing to people, the results they were able to produce. And he shared that all of those things that he did, that he experienced it himself and other psychologists couldn't produce the results that famous person did. But what he found was when he started to hand this worksheet to people, that he could hand it to anybody who was willing to use it, and they could produce the same result as he could or I could or anybody else. You don't have to believe it. All you have to do is put the pen to the paper and do it. And knowing that you didn't have a printer, we printed off 20 double-sided sheets, so you had a worksheet to go with, put them in a package and sent them to you. So now you can put the pen to the paper. And what I'd suggest is that, you get yourself a nice notebook that you're really comfortable writing in, one that sits nicely on the desk and you can work well with, and begin to, once you start running through those copies that we sent you, we're not in a position to keep you in worksheets forever, but that you take that as a model and you write the whole process out. Once you get used to it, you write the whole process out. And what you'll be doing is you'll move yourself through generations and generations and generations of energetic patterns that have broken the people in your bloodline and are contributing to the brokenness that you're feeling right now. And as you put it to work, piece by piece by piece. And I'm not saying it's going to be fun, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but piece by piece by piece, every rage, every fear, every power person dynamic of your life, every message that was given, you'll face, you'll move it out of your tissue. And the tissue that is distorted, we call it diseased, as a result of that toxic energy being there, will heal. And so I breathe with you. That's an important component in it. Without the breath, the oxygen, the energy doesn't move. And beyond that, in the first century Aramaic language, if you listen to the creation story where they tell us that God sent out his spirit, it doesn't say that in Aramaic. It says the Creator sent out its breath. It's literally the lifeline. And if you just look at your life with the kind of pain that you've got, how often are you holding your breath? You're going to have to start a new habit of breathing into those places. And you'll say, oh, but Michael, that hurts. That's right. You're going to breathe into it. You're going to access that hurt. But you're going to do what John talked about yesterday and expressed so beautifully at the end of his worksheet. His objective, if you remember the worksheet, we started out. I know you haven't listened to the first day of it, so just briefly, the first part of the worksheet for him the day before yesterday was the object of attention was life and his rage at life and his pain at what was going on with this diagnosis that he had. When he finished the worksheet, the last step in the worksheet is you set a goal for a behavior that you're willing to do toward whoever or whatever you're doing the worksheet on. His worksheet was on life, and I just, for me, it touched my heart deeply to just listen to the willingness that John had to go in there and the connectedness with which he spoke his new goal, which was every time I think about life and my disease process, I'm going to go into and open the heart space and be the presence of love. That's what will heal you. When you can say that with him, that's what will heal you. And it's not a magical, mysterious, oh, God's going to heal me, love's going to heal me. No, it's when you enter into the practice of literally bringing back your human life into your human form, bringing forward the active presence of love into your tissue structure. And we're here to join you in doing that every step of the way. And as you do, the cells that are restored to love, the cells that hate and fear and rage are forgiven from, will change their chemistry that fast and heal. So that's my best explanation of the healing process. And I did send you this morning the links to those two radio shows so you don't have to, fast forward through the first hour. You can just hit those. They're on YouTube. Anybody who wants to.
I saw them. I just haven't had a chance to listen to them yet.
Yeah, good. Okay.
But I got them.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm sure Jeanie has them in notes. So anybody who wasn't available or wasn't part of the show yesterday or the day before, and that would have been, let's see, what's today? Today is January I'm just thinking, so we've got this audio recorded here. What's today's date? January
today's the 20th, so that was for the
20th.
18th and 19th.
So the 18th and the 19th of January of 2023, the two radio shows are on the our YouTube channel as worksheet examples. And how is it titled, Jeanie? Do you know
on YouTube, let me look. Yeah, it's on the page of the special MP3 radio shows. I've got them titled with the date. Let me look real quick. They are John C. Part 1, Part 2. And it has the date underneath it. So John C. Part 1 worksheet, January 18th, 2023. John C. Part 2 worksheet, January 19th, 2023.
So what do you think? Any thoughts for you? So there's a basis for where we can carry on our questioning conversation, and we've still got about 14 minutes left, so let's go for the conversation.
Well, I'm really realizing, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. We got you.
Okay.
Yes, dear heart, we do.
It's just hard to know where to begin, and
it's overwhelming. Jeanie, your microphone.
It really is. And there's just two things. I just feel like my own body is my enemy because of all the pain, and that if I wasn't in a body, I could be free and at peace. So I have a lot of hatred towards my own body, and all the physical pain, and it's kept me from being in a body has destroyed my life as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I've had nothing but pain, and my experience, my perceptions are that being in a body means suffering and abuse.
Right, got it. So here's my offering. So now I've got the lie that your family system tells its children, the lie that you were told. And that's the habit that you've lived out of all your life because you didn't know any better. For many years, it took a lot of deep searching. I didn't know any better. When I was born, my lungs did not function, and they said I was going to die. I lived on the inhaler and pills for 25 years, and I'll just offer that it was about, I've been doing the AVACEN for about 2.5 years. It was about maybe 8 months into using the AVACEN, and I had my hand in it. I was actually doing the radio show. My hand is always in the AVACEN when I do the show. The AVACEN's right here beside me. And I took a breath. I've been circling the earth for a few decades. I took a breath, and it was like, oh my God, that's the first breath I have ever had in my life. That was about a 1.5 years or so ago. Now, I was actually blessed a year ago, December, to have COVID. And the 3rd or 4th day of having COVID, the wheeze that had been in my lungs since I was a child and was there every minute of my life for the last several decades of revolving around the sun, I think it was the 4th day of COVID, That wheeze, for the first time in my life, cleared out of my lungs and hasn't come back since. So a combination of doing my work, having my hand in the AVACEN, and then getting the gift of COVID, and continuing to do my work through COVID, cleared my lungs in a way that they have not been cleared in many decades. So here's my offering. You've got a habit. It's well entrenched in you and your family system. It was reinforced probably by every brother, sister, aunt, uncle, parent, everybody that you knew, and the community you were raised in. It's a community consciousness. So now, the way you get out of that, because it is such a deeply ingrained habit, and you are in a severe physiological crisis, I hear that, I acknowledge that. So here's what you do. You don't say, oh, I'm going to take on all the hate I have for my body and heal it right now. You don't do that. You start with just a small thing in your world that brings up even minimal amounts of frustration. You know, if I had Tiger Woods, you know who Tiger Woods is?
Oh, yeah.
If I had Tiger Woods' phone number and I were to put us on conference call and call him right now and he answered, you know where I bet he is right now? I bet if we could call Tiger Woods right this minute, he's on the golf course hitting golf balls. Do you know why he's a master at golf? Because he's on the golf course every day. And he engages in the practice. Now, he didn't say, you know, when he was 10, oh, friend next door, I want to become an expert golfer. Would you please go and golf for me so I become an expert? You know what? When he was a little kid, his dad put a golf club in his hand and started to show him how to swing it. And he's been swinging that golf club every day for decades, and he's a master at it. Now, you're not going to lay back and go, oh, I'm so sad and I'm so hurt and I'm in so much pain, and never heal yourself. I hear the pain that you're experiencing. I got it loud and clear. And start with just something small around you that you say, that frustrates me or that upsets me or that angers, just the smallest things. Start with those simple worksheets until you start to develop a new habit in your mind. And the habit will be of acknowledging and owning the negative energy moving in you and learning to bring love present to your mind in your body as that is moving in you. Learn a new habit. When you learn the new habit of bringing love present to it, you don't have to resolve everything in your life today. Your heart, what you need to do is just start a new habit. And that is, I'm going to just be still for a minute and bring love. I'm going to start to cultivate my relationship with myself as love. And then as I do these worksheets, I'm going to strengthen my ability to do exactly what John said at the end of his worksheet yesterday. Oh, every time I think of this object of attention, I'm going to open my heart and move into the presence of love. You can do that no matter what's going on in your body or your environment. But it's not a habit yet. Now, what psychologists are telling us, you know, some people talk about 21 days. No, actually, the number is somewhere up around, I forget exactly what it is now, but they've done a lot of research on it. You're going to have to engage in this new behavior. I think it's something in around 80 days. If you'll do that, every time you're in pain, stop and just tap into and connect with love. Cancel the goal that's driving your pain at the moment, the situation that your mind says, this is the problem, and start to engage in that habit of forgiveness and bringing love present. And 3 months from now, you and I will be talking on this show, and you'll be saying, Michael, you know, I still got a lot of pain. I got a long way to go, but I got it. And I'm connecting to love, and I'm starting to realize who I am. And I'm introducing my body and my cellular structure to me as the presence of love, something I've never seen anybody in the world ever do before. And that conversation will strengthen you and move you forward into a healed state. And a state where you can say, well, even with my physiological diseases and pain, I'm now moving into the arena of sacrifice. And sacrifice doesn't mean, put your head on a chopping block so somebody can cut it off and call it a sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't mean killing something, as the world would tell us, or especially as churchianity would tell us. Sacrifice means to make sacred. Are you willing to make sacred your pain? Are you willing to bring love present to your pain? And when you do, you'll start to change the chemistry in your body. There's actually a man named Norman Cousins who was given, I forget what his diagnosis was, but he was given a short term, you're going to be dead within weeks type of thing. Here's the treatment we prescribe, and maybe we can prolong your life a little bit. And what he did was he went out and rented himself a hotel room with a big screen TV, and he rented a bunch of Charlie Chaplin movies. And he laid in bed and he watched Charlie Chaplin movies, and he laughed, and he laughed, and he laughed, and he laughed, and he overcame his diagnosis. He was actually given an honorary MD's degree for healing himself. And he said, if I were going to give somebody a gift, it would be the gift of a life-threatening disease so that they would have to start to take care of themselves. So I'm inviting you into a new habit, dear heart, of taking care of yourself, of recognizing yourself as love, and just cultivate the practice of bringing love present to your pain, to your body. Allow that hate to start to surface and melt away. And as it does, watch your pain lessen. Watch the game change, because it will. So that's my offering. Keep putting your hand in that machine. I would up it to 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes twice a day. And keep breathing and keep moving through this habit instilled in you by your power person. And, because you, like me, didn't know any better. I didn't know any better than to just suck up what I was fed. And we have to change those habits. So I'm here to breathe with you and hold the space and support you and answer every question that you've got along the way as you start to unfold this. But just start out slow and simple. We're almost at the end of the show. The show's going to cut us off. But just start out slow and simple, tapping into love, looking at the goal that you hold at the moment and just canceling it. Just kind of start into that practice. And we'll be having a conversation about 3 months from now where you're going to go, wow, I didn't know this was possible. I didn't even know this world existed. So breathing with you. Deep, full breaths. And whenever you notice yourself holding your breath, that's the time to take a breath and tap into the presence of love again, again, and again until it becomes your new habit.